What's up, everyone? Welcome back to the CeeLo's Film Club. I just finished watching one of my most anticipated movies in the last couple of years since they announced this movie, Superman, directed by James Gunn. He did, the Guardians of the Galaxy movies. He also did the Suicide Squad movie for DC as well. In the past, there's a lot on the shoulders for the Superman movie. A lot is rolling on the Superman movie. This is gonna kick off the new DCU franchise. It's they're starting fresh. Well, not 100% fresh, but mostly fresh, at least with the big big characters. And I'm gonna tell you guys this right now. I had such a great time watching this film. Superman is such an excited, fun film to watch in theaters. I watched it in a pre-screening that I purchased through Amazon. And I'm not going to lie, guys, a lot of people had a lot of fun. It did have some flaws in this film that I will talk to you guys about once we start getting into our review. This is going to be a non-spoiler review. But yeah, guys, let's jump right into this. But before we jump right into our review, don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button. Share this video. Drop some comments down below, turn on those notifications. You guys don't miss a beat on more movies and TV news and stuff like that. When Superman gets drawn into conflict at home, abroad, his actions are questioned, giving tech billionaire Lex Luthor the opportunity to get the Man of Steel out of the way for good. While intrepid reporter Lois Lane and Superman's four-legged companion Crypto be able to help him before it's too late. Guys, this film has a lot of things going on in this film. I'm going to give you guys pros and cons because there is some cons to the film that is not just me. A lot of people have been talking about for the film. So I'm going to do the cons first and the pros second. But I'm going to give you guys a little bit of the overall how the film is. James Gunn has already confirmed this. So this is not a spoiler. If you guys have not seen any of the interviews, it might be a little bit of spoiler, but it's pretty much everywhere. The film starts off pretty much right in the middle of the action. It starts off, it's not an origin story of Superman. It starts off in the middle of the action. It does remind me sort of an episode of the Justice League Unlimited. The middle of the action, it dates that superheroes have been around for 300 years already, and Superman has been, introduced to the world about 3 years ago, dated from the film where the film takes place. But yeah, guys, this is a very action-packed film. There's a lot of things going on. I'm gonna tell you guys what the cons of the film. Cons. There's a lot of pacing issues. Not a lot, but it starts off pretty good, then has a little bit of pacing issues, especially with the Hammer Brave character that we saw in the trailers. I think that was a little rushed, some of the fight scenes. There's a couple things that happen in there that I feel a little rushed. Some of the writing seems a little rushed. The writing to me could have been a lot tighter. I think this is not James Gunn's best writing. It seems very rushed to film. Not necessarily the pacing of it. I mean, yeah, the pacing does seem rushed, but there's some films that are fast-paced, and that's not the point. The point is, it just seemed a little sloppy. I feel like the script itself could have been a lot tighter. There's certain parts of the script feel a little off. I could definitely see it. Maybe it's something that was nitpicking and whatnot, but, for James Gunn, out saying in interviews that script is first before anything. I think this script is a little bit on the weaker side. Not completely weak. I don't want to say it's a weak script, but it is on the weaker side for sure. I know he has mentioned that he doesn't want to greenlight anything until the script is done. But I think he could tighten up the script a little bit better. I heard there's a little bit of reshoots, a little bit stuff like that. So that could be it. Especially with with the war actually going on here in our real world. I think they want to cut some stuff out. I totally get it, so I'm not going harsh to it, but it is something to talk about. The script can be a little untight. I don't think the script is convoluted or congested or too all over the place. How some people are making it seem. It's a very good script. It's a very straightforward script. Don't expect any crazy twists or turns, and I'll jump into that in a bit with a lot of with the character that everyone's thinking that it's supposed to be a different character and stuff like that. But it's a straightforward script. It's not something that goes, oh my god, what just happened? Or I also don't feel there's crazy tension and build up. I mean, there is, but I don't feel like it is something that has you too much on the edge of your seat where what's going to happen next. It's more of an edge of your seat of action-packed emotion and heart. So there's some silliness to the film, which I personally, certain parts did not hit for me. It's not even about the jokes. I'm talking about the silliness. This might be a personal thing, but there is some shots that they do with, with characters. Like there's a couple of shots of Superman where his shirt and makes these expressions seem a little silly to me, to be honest. And I don't even think it's David Cornsweet. I think it really has to do with director's choice, to be honest. He's there to fix those stuff, so he didn't do that. There's there's a lot of silliness to it like that. There's a couple of shots of, okay, I'll jump into it right now because I was going to talk about her later. Hawk Girl. There's a shot of Hawk Girl a couple times where she's flying, and when she's flying, they have close-up shots, and it seemed very silly to me, to be honest. These hawk noises, and the hawk noises didn't throw me off. Is the way that the camera was zoomed in her face, and she was doing those hawk noises, which I felt very silly. Didn't really look badass. Hawk Girl's supposed to be very badass, and I think there's one character that could have done more with. She doesn't get crazy amount of screen time, but there's a couple elements to her that I really liked, and I'll talk about the pros. But I think Hawk Girl, they could have done a little bit more with her. I think they could have made her at least look more badass in her fight scenes. I think they didn't really make her look too badass. There was a first time when she pops up and she fights the kaiju, and I think they could have used her a lot better. That's one little thing that I didn't really like. The cinematography, I'm going to give you some of my thoughts on the cinematography. I think it could have been a lot better too. I'm not a James Gunn hater because I really love James Gunn. I love the Guardians of the Galaxy movies with the exception of 2. I like 1 and 3. I'm going to sit here and say they're my favorite movies. All James Gunn is my favorite director, but I do like James Gunn. I think he's a very creative director. He makes you love characters that you never think you would love about, like Groot or like Raccoon or like, just the whole Guardians of the Galaxy. But I don't really think he has a really good cinematography. Maybe that is the director's cinematography's fault, but I don't really think he really had really cool shots. He had really good camera movements in the film, but really cool shots. There was a couple of them that were really good, but there was a lot of them that I'm like, I don't know if it's just because the movie was rushed, but he doesn't really have great cinematography. There's a couple shots that were really good, especially outside the Fortress of Solitude and when they're in Antarctica. There's also a shot of Superman coming out from the smoke, kind of like a smoke scene where you actually see in some of the trailers were really well done. But I think the cinematography could have been a lot better. I'm very big on that. I know it might be just a personal preference, but I think the cinematography could have been a lot better. For James Gunn, that didn't really take me out of the movie too much at all. I think that's something that I'm being nitpicky about. The sets look pretty good. You can tell they're on set, but cinematography wasn't the best. Some of the CGI was a little wonky. Not too bad. I thought it was going to be a lot worse how some people were talking about. You could kind of tell that there's a lot of heavy CGI. I think they could have used their time more wisely to clean that up. Just because the CGI is bad doesn't mean the movie's terrible and it takes you out of it too much. I think the CGI just could have been a lot better. I gave you my honest thoughts on the suits. Don't like them. I'm not trying to be a hater or anything like that. Not trying to compare it to previous suits, which is sometimes inedible. But I'm not going to try to compare it to like Henry Cavill's suit. The Superman suit itself, I like. I like how the collar comes up, the actual design, the cape, how it flows, the big S, the colors are great. Even the underwear outside is great. Just the material of it, not a big fan how it looks. It looks a little odd. It almost looks a little uncomfortable. I know in interviews they have talked about that they wanted the suit not to be super tight because of the theme of the film that Superman's supposed to be very kind. David Cornsweet Superman, he wanted to emphasize that you could just come up to him, say hi, he'll take a picture with you, shake your hand out in public. He wants people to feel, warm around him. They want him to feel, hope around him. He's already an alien that is the most powerful meta-human that's living here on Earth. And people are already kind of scared of him. So he doesn't want to have this look to him where he's just too much, badass looking. Which I get for the theme of the film. But at the same time, like, is it going to change? You know what I mean? Also, the Justice Gang suit, not a fan of them at all. I know they're supposed to be sponsored by Lord Tech, which is not a spoiler. This is something that has been talked about for a while. They call themselves the Justice Gang, while at least Guy Gardner kind of does. And I'm being 100% honest, guys. I don't think that the suits look good at all. Even if they're sponsors, they just don't look good at all. The lighting on them, they just make them look kind of cheap, to be honest, in my opinion. I think Mr. Terrific's suit looks more like him, but even then, they don't look good. That's one thing that James Gunn doesn't do very well. Previous films, he doesn't make characters look very badass, and that's just a personal opinion. You know, none of them look like crazy badass, to be honest. That's just a personal opinion of the suits. That just maybe something that I'm nitpicking on, and I'm very keen on. Maybe because I'm very used to a lot of DC suits looking pretty good. But not a big fan of the suits. I think they could have done a lot more with them. That doesn't make the movie bad. That's just one of my cons. It's something I'm nitpicking on. James Gunn, I think overall he did a great job with the silliness of it. It is kind of James Gunn. He didn't go too much on his freedom of James Gunn, but the silliness didn't really help. Some of the David's facial expressions did not work for me, but I think that had to do a lot of the shots. There were close-up shots that weren't great on a lot of the characters. Also, Superman's powers could have been used a lot more. Kind of see them in the trailer of his powers, and you don't see him too much after that. I know they want to dumb it down on his powers to make it more relatable, but he could have used his powers a lot more. That's my just a personal opinion. That's just something that I was nitpicking on. Let's go with the pros. There's a lot of pros to this film. I know it seems like I had a lot of cons, but these cons are mostly things that I was just nitpicking on. If I'm being honest, my favorite thing about the film is Clark and Lois's chemistry is awesome. It is off the charts. I think that they both nailed it. The casting, this is off to James Gunn and the work of David and Rachel Brosnahan. They were great. They're pretty much, to me, they're like a yin and yang. Clark is very optimistic, sees the good in people, just wants to do good, and Lois is idealistic. She questions everything. She investigates stuff. Well, why this, why that, and it's not annoying. Like sometimes I feel like Lois could be portrayed as annoying, like just wants to be in everyone's business. No, but she makes very good points. The interview scene was chef's kiss. It was greatly well done, very well written. They're talking about this situation in Moravia where these two countries are going at war, and Superman just goes in there and saves and stops the war. But Lois questions him, like, who did you ask? Did you go there? Did you talk to the president, or what is it, the prime minister? They call it for this country. I'm not 100% sure. Sorry if I'm butchering it, but he's like, yeah, briefly, and it's very true. Like, who did you ask? You just can't come in here and feel like you can just stop a war, but without speaking to everyone, making sure everyone's okay in terms of what's moving on forward with that. There's repercussions of things that you do, and she questions it, and he gets a little mad because like, what are you talking about? I came in there, stopped the war, I saved hundreds of people, I stopped a war. No one got killed. A couple of people, someone got hurt because of the tanks and stuff like that. And he gets frustrated. He's like, I'm just trying to do good, and I feel like getting reprimanded for it, and he really is. Superman is such a good person. Clark Kent is such a good person and that could be his weakness, but he is such a great person. The definition of a pure human being, which we'll talk more about the toads, but I think Rachel Brosnahan as Lois Lane was phenomenal. She is strong, opinionated, not too over opinionated where it's annoying. She is very smart. She uses her intuition of a journalist, which I wish they would have done that with Clark a little bit more. I think Clark just kind of goes because he knows he has the superpowers. He doesn't overthink stuff, and she's told him sometimes you got to sit down and think about stuff before you just go on and do. Lois Lane, she uses her journalism skills for her intuition. Rachel Brosnahan, I think, probably might have had one of the best performances in the film. Top three. There's three performances that are pretty good. So I really like her and Clark's. David Cornstead's dynamic, and the way she treats Superman and Clark Kent is very, very, very good, and it is very reasonable too on why she feels a certain way she does feel. One character that surprised me two characters surprised me that I didn't think that I was gonna like. The first one, I'm gonna go with Jimmy Olsen. Jimmy Olsen was a character that, if you guys know, Jimmy Olsen is like, Clark Kent's best bud. He is very, kind of like not a yes man to Clark Kent, but is always there for Clark. Very big fan of Clark. They're super best friends. I thought he was gonna be yes man of the Daily Planet. And I think that is one thing that, I thought that they were gonna do a lot. Him being a yes man, just kind of like a not a paper boy because he's a journalist and stuff like that. But he's not just that. He does have a little side story, a little side plot that fits so well with the film. I'm not gonna lie, I was I thought it was really good writing. That was one of the twists that probably was my favorite one. It was his little side story, which was done perfect. He's actually doing his little side investigation that's helping the overall film, and I thought it was done great. Jimmy Olsen, the actor that played Jimmy Olsen, did such a phenomenal job. I actually see him in I saw him in Booksmart. That's the only film I've seen him in. I know he's done other stuff, but he is such a great actor, and he played Jimmy Olsen perfect. His character was really good. I really like this character. I want to see more of him. Just, spending more time with him at the Daily Planet and whatnot. So I'm going to give you guys another character that I felt was really good, and I didn't think I was going to like at all. Never judge a book by its cover, but I did. And I'll give you guys the overall the Justice Gang too. But one of the characters of the Justice Gang, Guy Gardner, I did not think I was gonna like Guy Gardner. I thought he was just gonna be full of jokes and making fun of people, kind of clowning on the rest of the crew. And yeah, he did have jokes, but they all worked. His character, I was trying to remember what his character sort of reminded me of. And I can't wrap my mind around. He almost reminded me a little bit of what's his name, Michael Hooker. I think that's his name, the guy that plays Gondu in Guardians of the Galaxy. A little bit of his tone of voice, but Guy Gardner was awesome. His use of the powers were pretty good. There's a couple things that he could have done with his powers a lot better, and they kind of made more of a joke of it. But other than that, it gets me very excited for the future of the Green Lanterns, to be honest. Especially him, he's a little bit of an older, a seasoned Green Lantern, which it seems like they're gonna do with the Lantern show with Hal Jordan and Aaron Pierre being more of the younger Green Lantern, and I really can't wait for Lantern Siri. I know he's gonna pop up in that show. Who knows to what capacity. I also really like Mr. Terrific. His fight scenes, he has one fight scene. It's kind of a solo fight scene, and I thought was very, very entertaining. Made him look very badass. He was such a great character. He has really good comedic timing. They didn't overuse it too, but every time they did, it was really good. Made the theater laugh a couple of times. His suit is very comic book accurate. That's what I was gonna get with the suits. But I didn't like it overall. I think his suit just kind of looked like he was wearing a leather jacket that he got like from Hot Topic, if I'm being 100% honest. That's how I feel with the whole Justice Gang, their suits. Not a big fan of their suits. I really like Hot Girl in the the Justice Gang. Sorry, not the Justice League, Justice Gang. I thought, they had all great chemistry. She had great chemistry with other characters, but I just think Hot Girl, especially with Guy Gardner, they had these jokes that were going back and forth, and I can't wait to see them both in Peacemaker Season 2. But I felt like, again, she was underutilized, but her scenes with the rest of the characters were great. And then the jokes, I didn't think I was going to say this, but the jokes were on point. They weren't overly done. Jokes were really good. Those were not the silliness of that I felt that threw me out of the movie at all. I mean, guys, my thoughts on Nicholas Hoult, Lex Luthor. I actually got a little, Lex Luthor cup when we were out there out in the movies. I actually saw this at a Regal IMAX film. I actually got this popcorn bucket too. It kind of looks like a little trash can, but it looks pretty cool. I did not see any of the other popcorn buckets that everyone's buying. I do have a plug somewhere that's going to get me one, so I'll probably be getting that pretty soon. Not sure if I'm going to put it on the channel. Maybe just kind of put it up here or something like that. Lex Luthor one is pretty cool. Kind of looks like Megamind a little bit. And then I have a Superman Clark Kent one as well. But yeah, let's talk about Lex Luthor. Nicholas Hoult was great as Lex Luthor. I think he did an awesome job. He is like a, tech billionaire that, hates Superman. He just feels like he wants to get rid of Superman any means necessary. He also kind of, how to explain it? I don't want to say it like this, but he is almost like an Elon Musk kind of type of character. Doesn't act like him. I'm not saying he, they're trying to make him look exactly like him or anything, but he is this high-tech billionaire that is using his brains and his position of power to take down Superman, and also uses his, social media presence with Eve Tessmacher. I think that's how you say her name. I keep saying it wrong. Let's just call her Eve. His girlfriend that does a lot of social media and stuff like that to push the narrative, which we do see a lot nowadays on Superman and make him look bad and stuff like that. And I think he did a great job. I believed he was a tech billionaire. I believe he had a lot of hate towards Superman. There's a couple monologues that him and Superman go back and forth, which I thought they were kind of corny. That's another thing. There's a couple monologues that I thought that they were pretty back and forth. That was kind of corny. But Nicholas Hoult being a little puppet master in the back, I think was great. Of course, you don't see him physically fight Superman. This is not a spoiler, but he does using his brains a lot, and that's what really good about these characters and how you portray them on film. And it's hard to do these characters on film because you're like, well, how are we gonna, because he is the main villain, how are we gonna use Lex to go against Superman? They did an awesome job. Also, I feel like Batman v Superman, Jesse Eisenberg character was Lex Luthor was more like Zach Zuckerberg, and then he's more of an Elon Musk character. Not necessarily how he acts, but just how his character is portrayed. I thought it was awesome. And a big thing, social media pushing narrative is big here. You see a lot of people taking out their phones, posting stuff right away on social media, just like how we live in the world today. I think they did a great job modernizing Superman for this for the movie, for the general audience right now. They did a great job on that. One character that I also did feel like in the trailers that I was not gonna like was Eve Tessmacher, however you say your name. I thought she was gonna be just Lex Luthor's girlfriend, that just like this, hot, cute girl that takes pictures. Because you see her mostly in the trailers just doing this, taking pictures, selfies, and stuff like that. But the way they use their character, they secretly use it on us. I'm not gonna lie, it was really good. It was so funny and it was greatly done. And I think that kind of like stole a little bit of the show, not the show for me, but the subplot to me. I thought it was great. Her character was really good. First, you think that she's a little dumb girl that, just gets pushed around by Lex Luthor, and she just at the end she just kind of not. And I thought it was super good how they did her. I thought she was great how they did her. How they use her character. It wasn't just a waste of character just to have Lex Luthor have a girlfriend that just posts on social media. Great use of character. You guys are gonna be surprised. Hopefully you guys are. Maybe you guys don't like that subplot they use for her, but I thought it was really good. Another character that's used by Nicholas Hoult is the engineer. She's made out of like nanotech bites, I think they're called. Very great use of her character. She can pretty much construct a lot of stuff too with her hands. Gunn uses this thing. I don't want to spoil it, but she kind of trap people too as well with her nanobites. Her fight scenes were really good. When they go to Fortress of Solitude, her taking down the robots. You see this in the trailer, so you're not gonna be super surprised by it, but really good. And you kind of feel a little bad for her because they don't really go in their backstory of any of the characters, but you do kind of know how she's made and where she comes from, and you do kind of feel bad for her a little bit. Hopefully they do use her in the Authority. That'd be pretty cool. Doesn't really set it up for that, but it does leave room for that. So hopefully they do get this Authority movie running. Hopefully they get a nice script before they get this movie running. They should focus on tying up their scripts. Ma and Pa Kent were really good. They do have a couple moments there, especially Pa Kent with Clark, and I thought they was pretty good. They weren't standouts or anything like that, but I thought they were very charming. The mom kind of reminds me of my mom a little bit, where she's very loving and stuff like that, and how she is with Clark. I thought it was well done. Nothing that made you think, oh, okay, this is great. I thought it was just well done. It was definitely in the pro section of my breakdown, and I thought it was very well done. The flying and the fight scenes were very well done. You do kind of hear the cape going. That was really good. When he first crash lands was well done. It seems like an alien just crash landed. The sound of the film was really good. The fight scenes were pretty good. I thought the Hammer-Bravia fight scene was gonna be a little bit better, but for the most part, the fight scenes were good. The camera movements were really good, with the exception of Hawk Girl, but all the fight scenes were very well done. Fight scenes were really good. Crit though, they did him how they used him in the film. They utilized him in the film how I wanted them to use it. kind of use him for a plot, but not have him in the film too much. You know what I mean? And I thought it was going to be a little annoying, just always wrecking stuff all the time, which he does do, but they didn't overdo it. Where I thought that's what I thought they were going to do. What I was afraid of is when they're in a setting and Crypto just messes everything up. I thought they were going to do that. So thank God they didn't. Crypto was used perfect. He wasn't overutilized. Just a dog that doesn't really listen at all. Like, he doesn't really listen to anyone. He's a bad dog at the end of the day. Not bad as in evil and stuff like that, or he has bad intentions. But you do kind of feel bad because he does say to Lois, they said this in Australia, it's kind of foster situation. And you do kind of feel bad because it's like, this dog has so much, energy and powers. And you can't really communicate with him. It's not his fault at the end of the day. Everyone kind of gets pissed at him in the film, which is kind of cute. Mr. Terrific has a good line about the dog. I thought it was great. I thought it was really well done. Speaking of Mr. Terrific, he does have that fight scene I was telling you guys about. But Mr. Terrific, one thing that I did not like, other than the suits, his flying, what they use for his flying, he kind of uses like a chair, to be honest, to fly. It's not exactly a chair, kind of attaches to him, but that chair thing, it kind of reminds me, I didn't like how it looked when he was flying, and it kind of reminds me of those like massage chairs that, I mean, it's not as big as a massage chair, but you see like at the mall and stuff like that you see so many of that no one buys. It reminded me of that, and I did not like. So I did not like that for Mr. Terrific. I think his technology can look a little bit more high tech, because that's really what he uses, a lot of technology and stuff like that. And he uses, and he's somewhat of a bigger part of the story than the rest of the Justice Game, which was well done. I thought it was perfect. Mr. Terrific was awesome. I'll go back to Crypto. It was a great character. I do have a dog, a golden retriever, reminding me a lot of Crypto. He always wants to be kind of around you. Has a lot of excitement. Kind of when you wake up, he's on top of you. He doesn't always listen. My dog's not destructive, though. He doesn't really destruct anything, to be honest. He's a good dog when it comes to that, but doesn't listen a lot. But very charming. So I thought that was really well done with Crypto. The Crypto fight scenes were really, really good. He's not overly done just to have Oz in the film. Let's talk about David Cornsett as Superman and Clark Kent. He did an awesome job. Awesome job as Superman. I think you do buy him as Superman. I'm not going to compare him to Henry Cavill, because I think it's a little dumb to start comparing them all together. But I think he did a great job as Clark Kent. As Clark Kent, he did a phenomenal job. Even how he acts as Clark Kent around other people than he does around Lois. He did such a good job, man. He can be himself around Lois, which I really like. And, when, there is a thing in the comic books where he puts on his glasses, he makes other people those glasses make you look like you're kind of someone else, and that's what's canon in this movie. I'm not a big fan of that, to be honest. I just think the hair and just him acting a little different, which David Cornsett does. He slouches a little bit, he moves a little different. I don't want to say he's completely clumsy where he's knocking over stuff, where he looks stupid. But, he is kind of a little bit more all over the place, a little unorganized. And you would never think he's Clark Kent. Even the hairstyle's a little different. And I think they could have just done that, because it's like he always has to have his glasses on. God forbid his glasses fall or they break or something. You're screwed at that point. But he does great when he's being Clark Kent around like his parents and Lois, and when he's being Clark Kent around other people in the Daily Planet. And I thought that was well done by David Cornsett. He has great speeches about being kind and stuff like that. And him as Superman, I think he did a really good job. A couple of facial expressions, which I didn't bought into when he's hurt. Just a couple of facial expressions that I don't know if it's the way it was shot, which I don't know if it's a James Gunn thing, but that kind of seemed a little silly to me, to be honest. Has his aura around him, even when he's doing interviews, he gives off this Superman vibe. I know people are going to compare him to Henry Cavill. I think they're completely different takes on Superman, which are still kind of the same. One is very hopeful, and the other one is more of a god-looking like figure. But I think David Cornsett did a phenomenal job as Superman as well. He brings charm, he brings hope. He just, you see in all these interviews, you see that he really wanted Superman to feel hopeful. Superman's goal, I'm gonna talk to themes now because now I'm sliding into themes. So we'll talk about the themes and the tones in the movie. Pretty much, he's trying to find sort of his place in this world. He comes in from another planet. He's raised by some parents in Kansas, and he's pretty much adopted. He's not from this world. He's pretty much an alien. And not just any alien. He's the strongest metahuman of all time that the world has seen, and how he fits in this world. And he really, all he wants to do is do good, help people out, save people. That's his main thing. He wants to, stretch a hand for people. He saves a freaking scroll in the middle of this fight, which just kind of shows you who Clark Kent is. He's such a good person. So that's when people are questioning, Lois Lane is questioning him. He's like, what are you talking about? I just save people. Like, isn't this the whole point? And which it really is. And I think that really hit home run for a lot of people in the theaters. People that was watching with him, theater was packed that I watched it in. People were cheering in a lot of the scenes and stuff like that. And I think David Cornstarr delivered. He had an assignment. He understood the assignment, and him and James Gunn delivered that assignment. And I think that we do need a lot of goodness and kindness in the world, especially nowadays. They remind me a lot of the first Superman movie with Christopher Reeves in terms of that tone. They did use a lot of that original score, which was modified to be modern in its own. Which, after a while, you're like, oh my god, use something different. In my opinion, it was well done, but I don't know. They could have used something original. But overall, I think the film was great. I think a lot of people are gonna enjoy it. I think if you don't really like comic books, because this movie leans a lot to comic books, or don't have an understanding of comic books, might take you out a little bit, but I don't think you really do have to have an understanding of comic books. I watched it with a person that doesn't know anything about comic books, and they really liked it, but it is very comic book centric. It puts you right in the middle of the action. It's not an origin story. I thought was great. There's 2 cameos in the film, and they're not in the post-credit scenes. There's 2 post-credit scenes too, but the cameos are in the film, and I think they're well placed. They're not just cameos to have cameos. They do play a part in the story as well. And before I forget about Ultraman, that's one that I forgot on my list. I did write it down, but I skipped it on accident. It's talking about Ultraman. How to explain Ultraman? Ultraman, there's a lot of theories going around. I would just say tame your expectation of who Ultraman is. Ultraman is a very powerful character, very similar to Superman's powers. It does kind of remind me of Black Noir, doesn't say anything. I think they could have done his design a little different. He still looks badass, but just in that sense, just tame your expectations of fighting him and Superman. Very well done, but overall, I think Ultraman, just tame your expectations on him. I would look at it more of it like that. Overall, the main baddie of the film is Lex Luthor. I would like to see Lex Luthor and Joker team up for a future film. I know there's comic books where they team up together, and I think they would be great puppet master tiers. I think that would be something great to see, not in their own film, but in a film. Overall, guys, I think the film was great. I think it had, of course, some issues to it, but I think a lot of people, the general audience, is going to like it. I think kids will like it. I think people that like Superman comic books will like it. Hopefully it does great, because I think there is going to be some audiences that don't care about Superman as much, or don't really have a connection to it, that go see this movie. I think will struggle a little bit with it. Hopefully not. I think it's sitting at 85% on Rotten Tomatoes. Overall, I'll give this film about a 9. I'll give it a 9 out of 10, 9.5 out of 10. It's a pretty good film. Great Superman, Clark Kent film. The characters, they're all pretty much, for the most part, they're all pretty well done. Chemistry-wise, they were well done. I think James Gunn shines in that department when it comes to directing, bringing characters to life. Very comic book centric. Let me know what you guys think about the reviews. Have you guys watched the film? Drop your comments down below. If you guys don't agree with me, that's cool. That's the whole point of films. It's like art. Some people don't like the same song. Some people don't like the same taste in art. But drop your comments down below. I want to see what you guys didn't like of the film, what you guys did like, what worked for you, what didn't work for you. I am going to work on a spoiler review, which might take me a little bit longer to do. And I will do a spoiler review coming up in the next couple days. I will see you guys next time. Peace.